Cost effectiveness. In the context of charity, cost effectiveness refers to saving or improving lives as much as possible for as little money as possible. This is important to understand when brainstorming your own project ideas for young social enterprise, as the more cost-effective your project is, the more positive its impact. Why is cost-effectiveness important? To understand the importance of this theme, let's take a step back and put ourselves in the shoes of a donor. When we make a donation, there's something we're trying to achieve. Often, we can think of this in terms of improving people's lives through education, healthcare, or financial support. It could be taking someone off the streets, improving education in underprivileged parts of the world, or researching a cure for cancer. There are many ways of improving people's lives, and as donors, we are therefore spoilt for choice. But whilst there may be many projects which lead to positive outcomes, it is important to establish which projects will lead to the most positive outcomes for the same size of donation. In other words, which is the best value for money? This might seem a strange way to talk about charity, but it makes a lot of sense. There may be lots of charities to choose between, but funding and attention are both limited. We don't just want to do some good, we want to do the most good possible with our money. So we need to divert this towards the charities and interventions which do the most good per pound. Difference in levels of cost effectiveness. You may well be thinking, sure, some interventions might be a bit more cost effective than others, but how much of a difference can it really make? The answer is a lot. One survey has shown that we tend to imagine that the best charities are 1.5 to 2 times better than the rest. This would already be large, the equivalent of donating double the amount to the other charity. In fact, the gap is vastly different. The most effective charities in the world are often 10 to 100 times better value for money. Let's take a look at a case study, analysing different ways of tackling HIV and AIDS. HIV is a virus that attacks the body's immune system and, if not treated, can lead to AIDS, which is more serious and potentially life-threatening. Whilst there is currently no cure for HIV and AIDS, there are ways to keep it under control so it doesn't become life-threatening. If we look at one particular intervention, Antiretroviral Therapy, which fights the virus in infected people, it seems like this does a lot of good. The graph measures how cost-effective this intervention is using DALYs per $1,000, or in other words, how many additional years of healthy life can be added per $1,000. It can be seen that antiretroviral therapy can add 1 year of healthy life per $1,000. But now let's add other interventions tackling HIV and AIDS to the graph, and you can see that these can do much more good per dollar. Prevention of transmission during pregnancy is 5 times as effective as antiretroviral therapy. Condom distribution is about twice as effective as that, and education for high-risk groups is about twice as effective again. This shows how tackling the root cause of a problem can be more cost-effective. Prevention can be cheaper than treatment. But there's also a broader point here. Whilst this study looks only at HIV and AIDS interventions, there is a lot of high-quality research comparing the cost-effectiveness of charities which tackle a range of different issues. In many ways, this is great news. It means that in order to have a bigger impact, you don't necessarily have to give more. By giving to the most cost-effective charities, you can do many times more good with the same amount of money. Feedback loops. This difference in cost-effectiveness is very surprising and begs the question of why so much money is invested in interventions which clearly offer less value for money. So how come we don't notice this difference? The answer is all about feedback loops. When it comes to buying things for ourselves, it's easy to tell what is good value for money. When you buy a shirt, you know exactly how much it cost you and you can feel how comfortable it is and see how good it looks compared to other shirts. This is a strong feedback loop. If it isn't good value for money, you'd learn that quickly and wouldn't make the same purchase again. But when it comes to charity, the person making the donation is not the same as the person receiving the benefit. This represents a poor feedback loop. When we donate, we feel good about our decision, and we might receive an email telling us how our money was spent, but we aren't very sensitive to this information. We feel broadly similar regardless of the charity we give to, and we find it very hard to assess value for money when we're not experiencing the gains ourselves. The people receiving the services of a particular charity can see straight away if these services are ineffective or less effective than available substitutes. But since donors can be thousands of miles away and with little incentive to check up on their donations, often many donations are given to less effective charities as a result of this poor feedback loop. How does this relate to your work for Young Social Enterprise? In your task for Young Social Enterprise, you will be stepping into the shoes of a charity and designing your own sustainable project. It is therefore important to consider how you can go about assessing the cost effectiveness of your project. If you place cost effectiveness at the forefront of your decision making when brainstorming project ideas, you can have a significantly greater long-term sustainable impact. These are 3 questions which matter when creating social impact. What are you trying to achieve? Is it more children going to school for longer? Is it stopping people from dying from preventable diseases? Is it empowering women economically? How will you quantify and measure this? How much will it cost you overall to achieve these goals? Have you considered other ways to achieve that same goal that might cost less? Of course, in your task for Young Social Enterprise, it's unlikely you'll develop a project which competes with the most effective charities in the world. And that's fine. This is about showing that you have asked the right questions and thought about cost effectiveness in the right way. That way, when you go forward into your future lives, as donors, you'll be able to have hundreds of times the impact without spending a penny more.